You are in North Carolina this
near
evening?
near Charlotte.
Near Charlotte. I love
Right.
Charlotte.
Yeah, it's really changed a great deal over the years. I perform
Yeah,
there a lot.
not too bad. The last time I was there, my daughter had a cheerleading competition downtown. It was near the stadium over there in that near the arena that was called the Time Warner Arena at that time.
At
And
that point, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's all sports in town now. I'm down. I'm there usually twice a week. I'm playing somewhere right in town, and so I'm in the thick of it.
yeah, you keep pretty busy there. So, I mean, the majority of I've noticed on your website, the majority of what you have is really in that North Carolina area. So there's absolutely a ton of arts there, it seems like.
There is a great deal going on. It's pretty impressive. You know, a
Yeah.
lot of diversity too. Everything from orchestral, even the smaller town that I'm from originally has an orchestra, which is unheard of,
Yeah.
and has had for many years.
Yeah, because I mean, is it real? Have you seen a lot of change? How long have you been in Charlotte in that area?
Actually, I've been in North Carolina not all of my life. I lived on the West Coast for a bit, and in England for a bit, and on the East Coast on the North Carolina coast. But my family came to North Carolina in 1771, I believe.
Oh,
So
can you trace your whole family lineage all the way back to then?
all the way back to then. So
Wow.
pretty steeped in the area, and you know, I'm glad I've lived away. I was in grad school in LA, but yeah, so I came back, but it's changed a lot. Now we have LA level traffic in Charlotte.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm here in Atlanta. I've been here for well over 3 decades, and it's just changed tremendously. I mean, people just coming here, they're obviously here for the growth and all the jobs and all of that. But wow, it's just, I noticed that with Charlotte, even less public transportation. And yeah, really
Yes.
tough,
Yeah.
tough to get
Well,
around there.
but there's a lot going on. A good jazz scene in Charlotte. Lots of really fine players,
Yeah.
and some venues as well.
Yeah. So growing up, how did you develop all of this? When did you start taking piano and getting involved?
Well, it was in the family. My mom is a pianist and singer and violinist, and then my dad is his whole family was musical. Most of them played an instrument, and that orchestra I mentioned when it started, I think there were 6 or 7 of my family members in it. But my brother then started playing cello and guitar early, so he was successful very early. So by the time it was instrument time, there's no way I was playing the cello or the guitar because he had already set that bar pretty high. And since my mom was a pianist, it was sort of logical. But I didn't take lessons early. I played a lot and I started writing my own little things. And I think I was in my early teens when I realized if I didn't get an education, I wouldn't be able to put it in a form for other people to play my music. So that's when I
Yeah.
kind of developed that. And then I've always been a singer, and little by little that grew. And I studied voice in college in addition to composition, the piano. So yeah, it takes a lot of things going on to keep the wheels
Yeah.
turning as a musician.
What was the first thing you remember getting on the piano and one of your first pieces when you started getting into it?
Like fun, just something that I learned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excuse me. My grandmother taught me to play Frankie and Johnny.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's always it's interesting when somebody just starts doing that and they remember their very first piece.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
here it
there were
is.
several little just you played it over and over and over and never got tired of it. Of course, everyone within earshot got tired of it, but you didn't because it was fun to play.
It's funny because isn't it true about the 10,000 hours like Malcolm Gladwell, the author, talked about?
Yes,
It's got to be true.
it's absolutely true, and I could probably judge in myself about when those 10,000 kicked in.
Yeah,
You
and I
you
bet everybody
suddenly
can do that.
yeah, you kind of well, oh, I don't have to think quite as much about that particular thing anymore. So yeah, it's good to get to that point. Then you can really get down to work.
Right, right, right. And that's I think when you can become a composer and everybody derives off of everybody, isn't that true? It's like when somebody
Yes.
says, "Oh, you're derivative." I mean, well, aren't we all in some way?
In some way, yes. Yeah. You You just want to bring your, I want to say voice, I don't necessarily mean singing, but your voice, your palette, and you hope that whatever you've put together is recognizable to other people as you. Yeah,
Yeah, and you're making that your own, and you're being very original. So so
exactly.
your mom was into music. What was your dad into?
Well, he's still a huge opera fan.
Oh, nice.
Not like I said, he was not a performing singer, but he has tremendous appreciation, which from where his background, you wouldn't necessarily have thought. He was a Marine, so you wouldn't necessarily thought,
Huh.
oh, he's going to love opera, but he absolutely does, and he knows a great deal about the history of opera and the repertoire.
Wow, talk about cultured. Wow, that's amazing. I mean,
Yeah, but he was a
yeah.
salesman. He sold pneumatic fastening equipment.
What a difference, like to have that, very logical mind, but yet you're into that, and I'm sure it's probably a great escape, I
Yes,
would think.
right, right. So anyway, I had on both sides because there were musicians on both sides of the family, and I think I'm the only or first composer. I'm not sure, but everyone. I mean, there's just so many that play or sing or something everywhere around. But interestingly enough, we don't really get to play together very much. My brother's in New Mexico,
Oh,
so that kind of cuts us out of too much live performance.
yeah. Well, there's always Zoom, which you can always
Yeah, there's
deal with.
always Zoom. It's not quite as fun.
Can always collaborate across and maybe
Yeah,
use your actual nice equipment and sync it all up. It's a ton of work, I'm sure.
yeah, it is definitely.
Wow. So, growing up there through school, did you get involved in the school bands and all of that kind of stuff, or did you do stuff on your own
I
outside of
did
school?
things on my own. I didn't play a band instrument at that point. So yeah, I early on, you start your own little garage band situation and you're doing that. And I was into all sorts of things in high school,
Yeah.
lots of different music and worked on the radio for a while just for fun. It was a real fun high school job.
Oh, I'm sure. Where did you, what radio station or
A,
outfit did you?
a small station in the town I was born in, Salisbury, North Carolina,
Oh,
and WSAT were the call letters. Now they've merged with another station, WSTP, and they're still in existence. But yeah, it was a wonderful high school job. The 6 to midnight on the weekends.
oh yeah.
Yeah, and then later, I think they got me to do the early mornings on the weekends, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah, and
Radio.
actually, the station burned down while I was on the air one time. That was
Oh
really
my
fun.
gosh.
16 years old with my little fire extinguisher. It,
What
it
started
did.
smoking? Was it the board or something?
It was heat, maybe in an old transmitter or something,
Oh,
and it was just it was old equipment. So by the time it started, there's almost no stopping it.
oh my
But I knew to get on my knees and crawl out of the building. Yeah, but they rebuilt it. I was back there and worked another year maybe.
That's amazing. So,
Yeah,
and then,
that was fun.
yeah, that's great. Radio was so fun back in the day when you were at these small stations. I was in college. I did a little bit. In fact, I found one of my old air checks, and it was just like, I remember just like you could play whatever you wanted, and you're just like into your own thing. And now everybody can do this kind of stuff. It's
Exactly. Yeah, it was a totally unique experience, but I knew from that experience this was fun, but this is not what I want to do.
truly.
I knew that I was going to perform and be music one way or another, and it grew. From there, I ended up doing music direction, um, and all kinds of things. So conducting, doing regional theater, um, just anything really that comes
Yeah.
along that sounds interesting.
Yeah, so you went on to the North Carolina School of the Arts, what may obviously was close by, so you settled upon something that obviously you can enjoy and get into very quickly.
Right. And North Carolina is unique. I think there are only two states that have part of their state university system. They have an arts university. Believe the other is in Alabama. I think that's correct. But it's a wonderful school. They've got a great film school now, which they didn't have when I was there. So I had gone to a small college before, and there was a fantastic composer there. and he got his doctorate and left. And he said, "Look, you need to now go, where there's a really good composition department." So that's when I got into the North Carolina School of the Arts, and it was a fantastic experience.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so. How did you get into film composition? What made you bring
Actually,
that?
I can nail it down to a genre of film that I loved as a child and still love. All of the swashbuckling films, Errol
Hmm.
Flynn, those that's sort of era, and Eric Korngold, the composer. I don't know if you
Yeah.
know, he scored all of those films and tons of other films. And I was attracted to that music early on, and then after that, Bernard Herrmann and the Hitchcock scores. So I was just attracted to that music, and then thought, well, let me see if I can pursue this a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being part of the overall of the film, as opposed to concert music.
And it's really, it makes a movie. The music, obviously sound effects as well, but the music is really, I
Absolutely.
mean, the moods. I'm sure you've done this in academia where you can show like a clip with certain music and change out the music, and you could see how much that mood changes with
Yeah,
how that works.
you can completely change a scene. It's fun to go. There's some channel where people take movie trailers, they change the music out,
Oh, yeah.
and change The Shining into a comedy.
Yeah, I just spoke with a man who does music for movie trailers. And it's just like it's just incredible. I mean, it's a whole art unto itself, just doing the trailers.
Yes, it's completely different than scoring the film. It really is an
Yeah.
art to itself. It's like the movie posters, the same thing.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. And like a lot of times you could see the trailer and that music wouldn't necessarily be in the feature.
exactly. Yeah, I've done that myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So yeah, what were some of your credits, trailer credits and film credits?
nothing spectacular. Lots of independent films, some North Carolina directors, um, experimental films. No big name films, but the way things have changed, I'm sure you've noticed, and most people have. There is a sameness now to film music.
Oh yeah.
And that started happening really right after I left USC. And so I realized you were not, you didn't have the freedom to make it your own like it used to be. It doesn't mean it doesn't still require tremendous talent, but it didn't appeal to me the same. So
Mhm.
since then, really, as a professional, I've just sought independent films where you still can really do your own thing, make
Yeah.
it whatever you want it to be. And even
Yeah.
if they're not big budget features,
Hmm.
I find it more fulfilling.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's no question about that when you just do your own thing. It's
Yeah, yeah.
just really amazing. So yeah, how long were you at USC?
That was a 2 year program. Well, not even quite 2 years. It's more of an add on program. Yeah, and great experience there. I've made some good friends. Still have a very good friend in Vancouver, and we worked together and stayed in touch all these years.
Yeah. And so
Over the
then
years.
did you go to Dartington not too far after that?
Actually, that was in between the North Carolina
North
School of the
Carolina,
Arts and
USC.
USC. Yeah, and that was so different than the LA experience, as you can imagine, because it was all classical with Sir Michael Tippett was there and Harrison Birtwistle, who recently died. Very much a classical environment, and I made some wonderful contacts there who I've stayed in touch with over the years. Playing going to master classes and then playing on some student recitals. And as a result of that, had a piece premiered by another pianist in England, and that really gave me a good basis for contact there. So yeah, I'm keeping those contacts. I learned that early on. Keep those close to you.
Yeah. At Dartington, yeah, yeah, there's some really interesting professors that some
Oh
people
yeah,
might know, David Ott and people like that. That's
well, yeah, David was not at Dartington. That was at Pfeiffer College, where I went before the North
oh,
Carolina School of the Arts. Um, and he's still, he's a tremendous composer with a wonderful output. He's doing great. But Dartington, there were more. Oh, let's see. Lutoslawski happened to be there the year that I was there. He was an
hmm,
invited composer where he did do a master class. There was a big language barrier, but we did have an interpreter. The main thing is you were able to. I was in the choir and sing some of his pieces. The orchestra played them, and so you sort of immersed in his music for a week. And he was such a kind man, very nice man. As a matter of fact, recently I was remembering he signed one of my pieces, and I need to get my hands on that. It's
hmm,
somewhere around
yeah, yeah,
somewhere.
incredibly valuable, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was a great experience. And Dartington is in a, I think, 15th century, part of its 15th century castle.
Oh,
So that was a
Devon,
great
England. So if
experience.
you're going to
Down
go
in
there,
in Dartmoor, yes.
yeah. How far out of in relation to like London when you would fly in and go to a place like that?
Let's see. I went on the train from London. I'm gonna say 2.5 hours.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, Torquay and Totnes, and they're all right there together. I think Dartmoor is the whole area. It's
Oh,
about two
wow.
and a half hours. Beautiful train trip too, because it goes right down the coast.
Yeah, I bet that's gorgeous.
Very,
Wow. Talk about
very,
inspirational.
very inspirational. Yeah, that's the location for Hounds of the Baskervilles.
Mm.
Yeah, so
Oh,
you get
interesting.
that vibe. You don't walk alone at night too much if you watch that. If you've seen that film or you read the
Yeah.
book.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, going through all of this, how did the recording catalog start for you? What was your first recording and getting through
Oh,
that?
golly, it's been such a, I hate to say grab bag, but because I've done pop recordings and then
Yeah.
recorded class concert pieces and some film, I'm trying to put my finger on the first recording. It's one, it's so not fun to go back and listen to what you recorded years ago. Just you don't sound as good as you think you thought you did at the time, and the recording technology changed
Sure.
and all of that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, early on, I wanted to record, and I've got recordings of me going to a studio when I was 16 or 17, and
Oh, cool.
it's fun. I'm not. I can listen to it if I have to, but I'd rather not. But then building on that, and then fortunate to have some commissions, and I had some orchestral pieces recorded early, and got to hear that. It's an experience when you write the piece and then you hear it performed, and you find out, because now we have the technology. I can do all these plugins and hear back a pretty good facsimile of a full orchestral piece. You couldn't do that, and so
Uh,
it was amazing when you got an orchestra to play something that you'd written, and
oh,
then you
no
learn from
question about
that.
that.
You learn your orchestration weaknesses and strengths, and hopefully build on that. So yeah, so I grew on that, and then later went into more instrumental, uh, like piano trio type jazz pop. And I'm still building on that. At the moment, I've got a lot of things that are just ready to be released.
Oh, good.
So I do both. I mentioned the recent string quartet recording in Ukraine, and then at the
Yeah.
same time, I've got a couple of solo piano records that are ready to go. So it's all going.
Well,
And the
good stuff.
publishing. I'm trying to concentrate more on publishing at this point, just because to put it out there to people that I wouldn't be able to reach otherwise, and publishers can do that.
Right, right. It's very important to be in publishing and being able to have the rights, and that way you could,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, so
And so
many
I'm
musicians.
my uh, output has been pretty good lately. So I'm trying to, whether it's string quartet or woodwind piece or choral, trying to get it all published so that it's in the public and available.
Yeah.
So I'm building the catalog as a recording catalog and also as a published catalog.
And the string quartet, you recorded in Lviv, Ukraine.
Yes, Lviv. It's
Leave. Like
on
Kiev. Yeah.
the
Leave like Kiev.
eastern side of Ukraine, but I think it's about 30 minutes from the Polish border. And it's a crazy story. I had gotten the grant to write the string quartet from ASC and Arts and Science Council, and that was great. And I usually don't have any problems writing, so I had my piece laid out, and I knew what I was going to do. I like to work on even those four movements in a string quartet, the whole piece at one time, rather than finish this movement then move this movement. So I had it all laid out and I'm working, and I contacted a recording orchestra in Moscow that I had recorded something before, and they're wonderful and fantastic quality and very quick and amazing rates for what they
Mm.
charge. So that was set up, and this was in January, and we were going to record. I needed to be recorded by the end of June. Well, then the war started.
Oh gosh, I know.
So at
Mm.
first it didn't sink in. Oh,
Yeah.
wait a minute. You can't
Mm.
record in Moscow. There's no. So I let it go for about 6 weeks, and then things just escalated. So I realized at that point, there's no way that I'm going to be able to do that. So I started researching, and I thought, I'm kind of team Ukraine at this point. So why don't I see if there's not a recording orchestra in Ukraine?
Yeah.
And sure
Sure
enough,
enough. Yeah.
I found Ukraine recordings. Andrei Pitkivka is the contact's name, and he set it up, and he said, yes, very definitely, we can record for you the third week of June. So we did that. The interesting thing is, since I found them the end of March and I was still very much writing the piece, I let some influence go in a compassionate way for Ukraine, and I hope that it can be heard in the music. The depth of what those people are going through and have gone through. For centuries, they've been through a lot. So by the time it came to record the piece, I was able to zoom in on the rehearsals, and Andre was the translator for
Nice.
the conduct between the conductor and the players and I. And then I was able to attend the recording sessions as well. And we've gone back and edited a few things since then, but it went so well that I asked them if members would record my woodwind trio, which I wrote last year, had a commission for last year. It was premiered at the Charlotte New Music Festival, and they've already recorded that piece as well. That's the one that's just been published. It's called Telegraph. And
Telegraph.
yes,
Yes, he sent me that.
right. So these are members, the
Beautiful.
Philharmonic in Lviv. But yeah, the war's kind of on the other side of the country. So even though they had suspended recording, I think my string quartet may have been the first piece they recorded since the war started. So it was exciting for them to be able to get back to recording, and of course they did a fantastic job.
Oh gosh, that must have been talk about another great escape. It's, you're doing what you love, and with all the horrors that are just basically at your back door there,
Oh,
it's
I know. I
perfect.
can't fathom. And there was one time we were in, I think it was a recording session, and all of a sudden I see instruments going in cases and they're closing them. And I thought, but we're only halfway through. What are we doing? And he came on and said, I'm sorry, there is a new curfew. And if
Yeah,
they don't leave now, they won't be able to drive their cars back home because you can't be on the road.
yeah,
So just like that. I mean, we can't imagine living that way.
yeah,
And the previous Sunday, I think 2 or 3 bombs had been dropped on that city, but they're really tenacious folks, and nothing. They're not letting it stop them. Yeah.
yeah. You got
So
to
they're
be so strong.
yeah,
Mm.
it's amazing. I'm so pleased to have these new Ukrainian contacts and friends. They did a great job, and that the string quartet should be published within the year.
Good.
Yeah, and the recording will be, it'll be available on all of the typical streaming sources.
Yeah, you're
As
everywhere. It seems like
yeah, and as soon as
band
it's
camp and
oh yeah, as soon as it's mastered and ready to go out. Yeah, but we're still editing on that.
So how are you involved in that post-production process, like with editing? Are you, have somewhat of a technical mind, or you basically work with a lot of talented folks who make it all work?
I A little bit of both, budget wise, especially film budget wise, you sort of have to rely on yourself for a lot of it these days. Fortunately, the resources are there, and the plugins and the recording platforms to make that happen. But I never fully trust my ear on a finished product. And I do have a lot of really fantastic people. I had one guy, he's died recently, unfortunately, but he
Mm.
came, would come and help me set up templates for particular styles and ensembles so that I could work in my own studio, but maintain a certain sound and quality, because I'm not an engineer, but that was a fantastic resource that he helped me set that up.
It's
But I
cool.
always, for mixing and mastering, I want to go to someone else who that's their job. They know
Yeah.
that.
It's tough to hear yourself back. I mean, that's the human condition. You're talking or
Yes.
singing. It's hard for probably a lot of, probably most of
Oh,
us.
and you send something and they say, well, I think that vocal could be louder. And then you
Yeah.
think, really? And so you adjust it. And the next guy says, the vocal's a little hot. So I don't think vocal. I think I'm pretty good otherwise, but when it comes to vocal, I need somebody else to make that decision.
Yeah,
I
it's
can't. I
tough. It
can't
makes
tell.
you question yourself.
Yeah, I can't tell. Is it too loud? In my head, it sounds a certain way. So no, someone else has to make that decision. I'll
Yeah.
arrange it, but then you adjust the volume.
Yeah, leave it up to others. That's why it should be a team effort in a way. You could do a lot of things solo. I mean, there are people who can, but
Yeah.
it's like it's hard. It's good to have that other ear. It's very
Yes.
subjective.
Other ears to rely on that you trust.
Yeah, without a doubt. So, how many full-length albums are in your catalog?
Um, Six.
That's good.
And as I mentioned, there's a live piano uh, record coming from a series of performances I did um, in a North Carolina mountain town over a period of years, and I would write two or three new pieces each time, and so those are coming out. And then the other is just sort of I don't want to say atmospheric, but it's piano and percussion and a few orchestral instruments, just like a solo horn here and there, just an interesting ensemble. Um, that I'm excited about it. I don't know how it will go over, but that's about finished as well. And then a pop record, sort of jazz influenced pop record, probably the biggest production I've done.
Hmm.
Lots of things going on in that record, so I'm
Yeah.
very excited about it. And I have uh, super musicians, to play that played on it, and now so many of the really good guys have their own setups and they can record for you remotely.
Yeah, isn't
And
that great? Yeah, the
it's so
technologies.
good. It's
Mhm.
so good because just the logistics otherwise might keep you from working with them.
Right,
So
right.
very excited about that. I had just have a lot that all came out at one time. I was very productive in the lockdown. So
Yeah. Some people thrived on it and others just weren't inspired.
I
It can go either
thrived
way.
that time to just shut the door and not have to be on the road all the time, and not I wasn't teaching as much. And no, I got a lot done.
Nice. I like that song, Thoughts and Prayers. Very it's got those pop sensibilities. It makes you feel great, doesn't it? It's just
Thank
really, really
you.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was actually inspired by the high school shooting in Florida.
Mm,
And once again, when nothing really happened after it, I thought, yeah, this is same old
yeah.
story.
It's
But thank
a
you.
lot
I'm
of
glad.
strength. It definitely does.
Thank you for listening.
It makes you optimistic in the face of pessimism. It's just like, oh yeah, we heard thoughts and prayers a zillion times, and it's just it can be, it's so many mixed emotions. It's very, very all over the place.
That's on the sort of jazz influenced pop record I'm talking about that's
Yeah.
coming out. Yeah. Yeah.
Good deal. Yeah.
Maybe the title track. Haven't made that decision yet.
Yeah, it's pretty catchy. It really is. I think that could really get a lot of eyes and ears on something like that. So yeah,
Fantastic. Thanks.
definitely. So late September is a really great recording. You got some
Thank you.
really interesting people on there. You got somebody on flute. It's somebody named Tim Gordon.
Yeah,
Is
Tim,
that somebody you
and
know?
interesting thing is you may have Tim plays with a lot of different people. I think he does a lot of the Temptations and Four Tops tours, playing sax. But he's principally a sax player, but plays everything. And so he's recorded flute for me, sax, flute, and clarinet. Yeah, fantastic. And he's another guy that's set up, to record remotely. But we're actually working together this coming Saturday. Yeah, he'll be playing sax.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
he's a North Carolina School of the Arts graduate as well. Yeah,
Yeah, it definitely shows.
we weren't there at the same time, but yeah, so we didn't know each other from that. But yep, super guy, fantastic.
Yeah, you got some really good stuff out there. You were all over YouTube. Another
Mm-hmm.
great clip I see is Excursion, which you did over at the Ash Center. Uh,
Right.
really tremendous piece.
Oh, thank you, thank you. That's one of the pieces that'll be on the live piano record. That not that particular recording, but yeah, that was fun. I like that. Every year I did one of those, like I mentioned, for 8 years, and so I didn't start too early writing for them. I would give myself, not a lot of time, and I think that piece came out of the urgency to write a new
Sure.
piece for that concert. Yeah,
Yeah,
obviously you're going somewhere in that piece.
without a doubt. So, what other performers inspired you as you were growing up? I noticed you did a cover of Billy Joel's Piano Man more than a dozen years ago that's out there on YouTube. So obviously that
Right.
pianist must be quite an influence.
Probably as much as his songwriting as piano. Yes, piano, but just such a tremendous songwriter. I
Yeah.
thought about that recently. So definitely, uh, Billy Joel and Elton John were influences. Just they were everywhere for so
Yeah.
many years, and justifiably.
Yeah.
Um,
They show up everywhere. They creep this so much into my podcast here too. I mean, I've had like, the 3 degrees of separation from Billy Joel so many times in all the stuff I've been
oh
doing.
yeah, I just told someone recently. I think I have 2 degrees from the Beatles. I think it's
Absolutely.
two because once upon a time, Billy Preston, if people don't know, played so much of the
In the Get Back session.
organ and piano and electric piano of the Beatles, was coming through, and an agent said, "Hey, he's not going to have equipment, but if you can provide equipment, he's going to do 2 shows." And I said, "Absolutely." So he used my keyboard and my PA or my amp at the time for these 2 shows. And one of my perks was I got to go to both shows, and he had me up to sing a duet on "That's the Way God Planned It." So that's my connection to the
Oh yeah.
Beatles.
Oh, big time. Yeah. I mean, especially
And
when
I'll
you're
take it.
oh yeah.
Yeah, that was fantastic. But there's so many people. I really love Jerry Rafferty. Jerry Rafferty.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Um,
without a doubt. I love Night Owl and, obviously City to City, which
yeah,
is just phenomenal. I love that record.
yeah, and his vocal arrangement, I think, influenced me. I really love the way he wrote harmonies and harmonized with himself. Also brought in other singers, but um, definitely as such a tremendous songwriter, just
Yeah. Yeah.
incredible. And a lot of people don't realize that he continued to write very close to his death. He was still putting out great music.
Yeah. Yeah. He had his demons too, I guess, which kind of set him back a bit. But wow,
He
what a
did,
catalog. Wow.
yeah, tremendous catalog. But fortunately, he was able to work, to write all the
Yeah.
way through. But yeah, I really love Katie Lang.
Yeah, that's another good
That
artist.
her
Yeah,
performance
definitely.
style is just so amazing. Yeah, and such a voice that we were talking a while ago about, if you create you're lucky enough to have your own recognizable palette. No one sounds like her.
Yeah.
Absolutely no one. Yeah, just such a masterful interpreter of anything she sings, whether she wrote it or someone else wrote it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you
And
could.
such a yeah, a big character, definitely.
Oh man, what a voice! What a voice, and what
For
a
the whole
musician,
package. Yeah.
and songwriter. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So lots of good influences, but I also love opera too. Got that from my dad. So I'm all over. I've gleaned from lots of different sources.
Yeah, yeah, and it shows in the wide variety of what you've got. So it definitely helps. And I just, jazz is just something that creeps into a lot of people's world as well. So I'm sure that that's quite an influence too. Were there any jazz artists that you were really interested in following?
Definitely early on discovered Dave Brubeck
Yeah.
and Vince Guaraldi, of course, Herbie Hancock, all the guys that era. And then vocally, always heard Tony Bennett, Ella Fitzgerald, being a singer. So those influences were very important too. And then just not necessarily jazz singers, but I don't know how I want to describe them, but
Mm.
someone like Judy Garland, just the beauty of the performance and hearing how someone interprets what is seemingly so simple a performance, but it's so nuanced. There's so many layers to it. So yeah, listen to lots of people, lots of different styles, and I'm kind of all over the place for listening to jazz. I love Jean-Luc Ponty and
Yeah.
all sorts of instrumental uh, people of that level. Yeah, you never know what I'm going to be listening to next.
Yeah, I mean that really is a variety is the spice of life. Uh,
Right.
as you were developing, you said you had vocal training. How does that? What did you learn in that? What techniques do you do to learn how to be a great vocalist?
Well, early on, I learned that I probably didn't have the natural breath for opera, the
Yeah, that
endurance.
takes a lot.
But I've worked around it, and through those techniques and proper breathing and quote yoga breathing, expanded that on that. But it was interesting. The voice, matures for much longer than people think. So you're not your best singer at 21 or 25. You may not peak vocally until your late 30s.
Yeah,
So you change the colors, change your voice, your ability to interpret changes. But to your question, definitely techniques that I learned early on from voice teachers I've never forgotten. And
mm.
proper breathing, I remember distinctly when I sort of felt like I could control that. I had learned, some part of that technique, so I could control the performance and the breathing better, so that you don't wear out. You can do a 3-hour performance because you're doing cover band sort of things, which you have to. Or yeah, I don't mind anything, but you've got to have the endurance so you can do it the next day too. So you don't
I
blow
know.
your
Nobody knows how much work goes into that.
right, you blow
It's a
yourself
lot.
out. Yeah, and you're playing and singing. So yeah, definitely building on all of those techniques. And I like to sing a variety of styles as
Hmm.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. Just, in performance, yeah, you got to have that stamina. You're going night after night, and these people who've gone these long tours, I can't even imagine how much work that is.
It
They
is.
make it look easy,
They do make it look easy, but if you look at a lot of schedules, you'll see that there's always a night or two in between.
which yeah, you need.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people don't. I'm amazed at some singers. Maybe it's just the style that they do, that they can book night after night.
Mm, mm.
Yeah, good for them. But some people, and of course, uh, operas always have a performance, and there's
Oh
two to
my
three
gosh.
3 days in between for recovery and recuperation. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, that's really incredible. It
yeah.
totally is. Yeah. So you
So
get them.
Are you musical? You didn't say.
No, no, I'm a big, I appreciate it. I would love to have been if I was to be into music, and I'm a huge, obviously into appreciation, but I would love to have been a lyricist like Bernie Taupin. I really
Oh
would. I would
wow.
love to have done that. I'm so jealous of, and I look at those lyrics because I'm a writer at heart of, writer all around. And to me, that would have been the dream job. It was to, supply
Uh,
lyrics to somebody like an Elton John. That would be
oh
just
yeah,
gold.
to be such a lyricist that you can read the lyrics, and if there had never been a song, they're still wonderful, just on
Yeah,
their own.
right.
Such amazing stories he told and tells
Yeah,
in his
yeah.
lyrics.
That
Yeah,
one song, Blessed. I'm like, I don't know how you do. I think Elton once said that was one of his favorite lyrics. It was just it's just like, how do you come up with that? It's like it's incredible.
it is
Like,
incredible, and to be the recipient of those lyrics, to sit down with that blank slate and I'm going to create the music to go with this. That had to have been, that's got to be the greatest collaboration, except for you know Rogers and Hammerstein. it,
yeah,
it
yeah,
really is such an amazing
yeah.
duo
You're
partnership.
talking about an arrangement like Rodgers and Hammerstein, as it compared to, Elton's American counterpart, Billy Joel, who just always insisted on doing all of it.
Well, I know, and that really sort of for me puts him kind of in a special place,
Right.
because
Doing both.
yeah, it's just
And I think
amazing
he
how.
insists on that. And that's why he really was like, look, I'm out. 30 years ago, he's like, I'm out, I'm done. But he did it all. And that's a big difference when you're comparing those two. Yeah, Elton's done three times as much in the catalog, but
But yeah,
Billy Joel stopped after 12 albums.
yeah, he had to come out, with the entire concept came
Yeah.
from him. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a huge deal.
yeah. Well, you should find yourself some musician and say, hey,
Yeah.
would you want to work with me to write
Yeah.
some write some
Right.
songs?
Yeah. And I can have melodies in my head. I can have melodies. I don't play anything, but I can hear melodies and, things like that, which would be very interesting.
Yeah, I've had people come to me before, and say, "Can you put this to music?" And I'll say, "What do you mean?" "Oh, well, I have the song," and they literally will give me. I haven't done this in a long time, but a recording of them just singing the words, and so I would tell them, "Here's the thing: I can write your melody
Yeah.
and give it to you, but it's not a song yet. It's going to need chords and a structure, and what's the arrangement."
Yeah.
Um, but that's interesting that there are people who hear that and they'll sing that same thing the same way 100 times, uh, and then but they're not players, so they don't know how to turn it into
Yeah.
something other people can enjoy.
Yeah, that's why it'd be good to know keyboard at least, the basics at least, and you can figure out the notes and somehow
Yes,
translate it to that. That would be kind of a cool thing. I'm
yeah,
sure it's
enough
harder
to
to
play
learn as you,
chords.
yeah, it's got to be tough though, to learn as you get older.
Yes, definitely. The hand-eye coordination, lots to it. But I've had I've had students who are older. Who I had a gentleman come to me. He was an actor who you would recognize from so many things, and he was 77, 78 when he came to me,
Mm,
and he said,
number two.
I want to know about jazz." He said, "I
Mm,
don't expect to ever play for anybody, but I want to understand what's going on." And we had a great time for a couple
huh,
of years. He was so sharp anyway, but he loved it. He loved just figuring out the chord progressions and
mm,
seeing why things fit together. He had retired in North Carolina, but he'd been in LA and on the stage in New York. And he said, "Okay, I'm finished working. So now," he's one of those faces that you've seen so many times. So it was a lot of fun working with him.
well, that's really neat.
Yeah.
Very cool. So beyond all this, you got a full plate. What's for the future beyond all this? What else did you want to like expand touring beyond the Carolinas?
Well, I have done, and I do on occasion. The good thing about being a composer is your piece can go on tour and you don't have to.
Right.
not that I would mind, but and that's sort of my thing with the push on publishing now is just to make
Mm.
sure, I've got a lot of pieces, a good decent catalog, getting them out there so that other people can perform them. But yeah, I like doing that. It's not a tremendous goal. It's that fine line between I need my composer time and
Yeah, yeah,
songwriting time, and I can write just about anywhere, but I don't know that I would want to go out for long periods of time. I don't know,
yeah,
maybe we'll
yeah.
see. I'm
Yeah.
open, I'm adaptable.
And a lot of people in music can't read music, so I'm sure you're one of the few who can. It's just like there's some people who's
Well,
like, yeah,
who don't, yeah, fortunately with the guys that I usually play with, the jazz guys usually are literate musicians.
yeah,
So and that's great because you sort of start off at a certain level, and build from there because everyone can understand each other quickly. I think, yeah, it'd be hard for me probably to work with people who weren't musically literate at this point, but at the same time, they're people with tremendous output, natural gift, who just never took the time to learn to notate, but that didn't
yeah.
stop them from a tremendous catalog and output.
That is so true. That's so
Yeah,
true. Talked to a lot
yeah.
of talent
I,
over the years. Yeah,
I like a little bit of both. I like to be able to, play on the cuff and also commit it to paper.
yeah, yeah. That's good. It's good to be able to work like that. Well, that's
Yeah.
great. Well, I really appreciate your time and thank you for stopping by. It's been really tremendous.
Thank you so much for having me. It's delightful, and I look forward to talking to you again. I hope.
Absolutely. Take care and best wishes in all of your endeavors.
Thank you so much, Bob.